Esa sí es Fernando, por ejemplo, está séptimo. Y ya se ha salido bien en el sprint del año pasado, que salía de primero a quinto, con el más blando. Lo voy a intentar. Porque no le ha salido mal con el medio, ¿no? No, ya ha salido bastante bien. Lo que pasa es que es eso, que con el blando hasta bien.
I think the problem is for Ferrari, if they stick Sainz on the soft to try and cover off Verstappen, if Verstappen goes on the mediums, they are in trouble with Sainz. They've lost any level of strategy with him.
Just to run through the procedure, so it's going to be a standing start. Out lap will be behind the safety car on the grid. P13 slot, which is
expected and occurring around this track. And talk of Sergio Perez, he's always been renowned for being the tyre master, really. But this track for Sergio Perez has not been good to him. He's never started higher than 12 balls. This is actually his best starting position too. So can Perez play a game E? It's going to be tough to play the team here because he's well off Verstappen.
Well, he's back in the mix if they've gone back to original starting order. He was out of this with the way that he started the race. Hamilton coming through, Alonso passing him as well. Perez under sixth with Verstappen at the front. He's in trouble there. So Perez has got a reprieve here, back into fourth place, we believe, for the grid. And this whole, Perez is the tyre whisperer thing, I don't think it's been right this year. He's struggled on the tyres more than his teammate, I think, thinking back to Monaco.
So no rain expected, plus 2 degrees from track temperature.
Having out-qualified Verstappen on the Saturday, so Perez seems more regular this year. He seems quicker in qualifying, but slower in the race compared to the last decade of Sergio Perez. From fourth place, he can still be a fixture though in race pace. Just got a medal with those Ferraris and help the team out.
Just looking at some possible race strategies for you. So before we had the red flag, the strategy was clear. It was a 2-stop, which would have been the quickest way to get around this racetrack. So you go on the mediums for 14 to 22 laps. So a really big pit window, depending on what you want to do. Then onto a hard tyre till lap 32 for 39, and then back onto a medium to get you to the end. If you did want to try just doing one stop, then you would have gone to between lap 21 and 27 on the medium tyre, and then flip over to the hard tyre. So what we might see some people doing is having a bit of a gamble. Start on the medium, see how long you can go, push and push and push, and then if you can convert this race from a 2-stop into a 1 and have a decent tyre at the end of it, that could be an interesting way to go as well. But as you say, lots of nuance to this, and that all depends on what tyres the drivers have available to them as well, because it might be slightly different. But race is getting underway in less than a minute now.
Certainly is a confirmation of how they will line up on the grid. They will take it from where the drivers crossed that first timing beam. So we'll wait to see where that exactly puts everybody. It certainly does switch things around a bit, but there's going to be gaps on the grid as well, I imagine, or they'll just shuffle everybody up.
Yeah, they'll shuffle everyone up. Sainz is definitely back into first spot, pole position, back on the grid. He's got Verstappen behind him coming out of the pit. Further back, I guess they had more time to shuffle around positions before they got to that first timing beam. Maybe around they've got a safety car line on the exit of the pit lane where they could have maybe taken a time from. No, because Verstappen would have been ahead, so it must be before. It must be pretty much the front of the grid then. So I imagine it's going to be fairly much like the first start. Let's wait and see where Hamilton is as well. Is he going to be back behind yeah, he's back behind Leclerc third and Perez fourth, so it is pretty much as you were for the first start.
It is. The safety car leaves the pit lane, followed by the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz and then the Red Bull of Max Verstappen to get this race back underway. Of course, we will lose George Russell, Zhou Guanyu and Alex Albon. I think great work has to be said for the Alpine team. Esteban Ocon, Alpha Tauri's Yuki Tsunoda. Looks like they've managed to get those cars fixed up. Yet Gasly, I imagine, suffering issues as well involved in that.
So ahead of you, you've got Tsunoda and Ocon on soft, also Gasly in the team lead. Everybody else mediums. There's 5 people on softs.
A ver, no hay ningún motivo para no hacerlo.
Everyone's on the medium tyres this time, Harry. Verstappen back on the mediums. The Ferraris stick to the mediums. Alonso out of the pits. He's now, unfortunately, shuffled back down to 7th position for him, having made that good start on the mediums. Hamilton on the mediums. It is at the front, all on the mediums, which, hey, they're thinking you're pushed. Go with the masses.
I think I'm in the wrong job. I should be down on the pit wall. Clearly, Nicholas Latifi, though.
Alonso séptimo, ya no tiene detrás a Russell, que no está en la batalla, tiene detrás a Latifi con neumático blando. Sí, vamos a ver cómo sale el Williams, que igual puede incomodar a Fernando. Si Fernando sale como antes, no habrá problemas. Ahí tenemos a Lewis Hamilton, echándose encima. Hamilton, que ha ganado 2 posiciones con el medio en la pelea anterior, así que se saca de la manga ahora.
Exacto, porque muchas veces has sorprendido a tus rivales haciendo algo que a lo mejor ya no puedes hacer.
A ver, Leclerc había salido muy mal, ¿eh?
Sí.
Vamos a ver si ha sido un problema de embrague, si lo han solventado.
Todo el mundo moviéndose a un lado y otro, temperatura de la pista 32 grados, he hecho un vistazo último al radar meteorológico, despejado, luce el sol, hasta la temperatura está subiendo en Silverstone para que disfruten los aficionados que están en la grada. Se ha confirmado el dato que decíamos, 400.000 personas han estado durante todo el fin de semana en el Gran Premio de Gran Bretaña, en esas tribunas. Nigel Mansell, que sonríe con la gorra de Ferrari, esperando que pueda ser un gran día de uno de sus equipos, no con el que consiguió el campeonato del mundo, que fue con Williams. Llegan ya a la última curva para colocarse en sus posiciones de salida. Lo va a hacer Carlos Sainz desde esa primera pole de subida en la Fórmula 1. Lo va a hacer Max Verstappen desde la segunda posición, ya con los mismos neumáticos que el hombre que sale delante de él. 8 metros de distancia, poca distancia, pocos metros a la primera curva, pero recuerden que no se frena en la primera curva, los hombres de cabeza, tampoco en la segunda. La primera frenada será en la curva 3. Ahí venía Fernando en el último burnout. Se van colocando los coches para la batalla que va a comenzar ahora, aunque ya ha comenzado hace casi una hora, después de la bandera roja y de lo poco que hemos vivido después del accidente de Wang Yusu, Albon y compañía. Último coche preparado, el semáforo que se va a encender, el coche... Carlos vuelve a defender la primera posición. Verstappen esta vez con medios. 3 segundos para que se reinicie la carrera. Vamos, Carlos. Venga, Carlos. Sale bien otra vez Carlos. Ya no hay tanta ventaja de Max Verstappen. Se emparejan. Los dos rueda a rueda. Tiene el interior. Se mete por dentro Verstappen. Aguanta Carlos como un jabato.
¡Qué salida!
Que viene muy fuerte. Checo. Cuidado, Checo. Se puede colar a Verstappen. Tiene que cederle el hueco. No puede arriesgar.
Ay, qué pena.
Mientras tanto vemos a Verstappen. Que toca Leclerc con Checo. Leclerc se ha tocado con Checo. Verstappen aguanta.
Mira Hamilton con Norris.
Muchos problemas. Vemos también a Norris con problemas. Hamilton remontando. Carlos aguanta el tipo como un jabato. Carlos se marcha. Leclerc le puede hacer un favor por fuera. Se puede tocar con Verstappen. Se va fuera. Madre mía, qué cerca ha estado de tocarse con Max Verstappen. Sí, está marchándose y vemos ahí a los dos británicos, Norris, Hamilton luchando por posición, mientras que Carlos se marcha por detrás. Vemos que tiene problema Checo.
Joder.
Checo tiene descolgado el alerón delantero. El emplay de Checo descolgado, muy agresivo. Norris delante. Hamilton de momento por detrás de su joven compatriota.
La sección rápida del circuito, pero vemos trozos que le iban saliendo, yo creo que son del ala de Checo, porque realmente llevaba un ala tocada, pero es que ha sido muy agresivo.
Y Fernando, que ha perdido posición con Gasly está séptimo. Incidente entre el coche de Verstappen y Leclerc, anotado por Fernando. Gasly va por el interior, Gasly tracciona mejor, se lo está preparando Fernando, ahora se vuelve a meter detrás a coger el rebufo.
No hay de rezo.
Y arranca de nuevo la vuelta. Carlos líder a 0,9 de Max Verstappen. Vamos a ver si se puede marchar de la zona de DRS que empezará dentro de un rato.
No, sobre todo si
igual que ahí.
Tiene a Leclerc como lo tiene ahora detrás y tiene que protegerse de Leclerc, esto es perfecto para Carlos. Él puede hacer su carrera, mirado. Lo que necesitamos es que Leclerc meta presión a Verstappen.
Y que si puede ser que Carlos tenga ritmo, se vaya marchando.
Que bien ha aguantado Carlos esa salida y esa primera frenada. Y Checo también indirectamente le ha hecho un pequeño favor a a Carlos, porque ha atacado a Verstappen en un momento dado. Si no hubiese sido su compañero de equipo, le hubiese tirado el coche por el interior. De no hacerlo, se ha metido en los problemas con Leclerc.
Los dos Alfa Tauri que serían con blandos 4 posiciones ganadas cada uno.
Sí, casi delante de Fernando.
Y su Noda presionando a Fernando con esa diferencia de neumático que le está dando un poquito más de velocidad en estas primeras vueltas. Orden de carrera y lo tienen Carlos, Verstappen, Leclerc, Pérez, Norris, Hamilton, Gasly, Alonso, Tsunoda. Se siguen estirando, 1,2 la diferencia ahora mismo entre Carlos y Verstappen. Bueno que esté fuera de zona de DRS y vamos a ver si Leclerc se puede meter, porque Leclerc también está fuera de zona de DRS con Verstappen. Ahí tienen los neumáticos que se están utilizando, los que tienen el blando, los que han optado por el duro, por el medio, los que presuntamente van a intentar ir a una parada y los que de salida ya han decidido que van a hacer dos. Se sigue estirando el grupo todavía bastante compacto. Tenemos a Daniel Ricciardo, posición 13ª para él, por detrás de Valtteri Bottas. Sigue aumentando la diferencia Carlos, 1.3 con respecto a Verstappen. Y la vuelta rápida para él, 33.4. Pérez haciendo un tapón.
Sí, no tiene el alerón delantero tocado. No sé.
El DRS que se puede utilizar a partir de ahora.
Me da que Norris y Hamilton van a pasar por encima de Pérez, porque no tiene ritmo.
Verstappen a 1,3, importantísimo mantener esa barrera del segundo para que no entre en zona de DRS.
Bueno, habría que ver.
Está haciendo tapón. Checo está haciendo tapón.
Está bien tapón, pero fíjate, Hamilton y Norris se lo van a comer.
2 segundos.
Estaba pensando, si el Leclerc estuviera todavía colgando, le podían sacar bandera negra y naranja. Lo ha perdido.
Pero el coche no debe ir bien cuando está perdiendo tanto tiempo. Ya 3 segundos por detrás de Leclerc.
Oye, Carlos.
Alonso sexto. Hostia. Algo ha pasado. Creo que han ido a box. Ah, claro. Pérez ha ido a box, que estaba tocado. Yo voy a actualizar. Perfecto.
Bueno, le ha dicho que ha perdido, y está todo bien en el coche, y se ha perdido el endplate del ala delantera derecho, y hemos perdido 5 puntos de carga. Perder 5 puntos de carga es perder una media.
Mira, Alonso adelanta a Gasly.
Checo entra.
Sí, es que va muy lento. Le van a cambiar al alerón delantero y evidentemente va a perder, se va a meter en un lío tremendo.
Bueno, uno menos en la lucha, cuidado, porque Checo
Es un pin en corto, pero aún así sale el último. Mientras tanto, Hamilton presionando a Lando Norris. Por cierto, no se va a investigar el incidente entre Verstappen y Leclerc.
Ojo, Alonso. Rueda Alonso.
Fernando adelanta a Gasly.
Con la U.
Adelantarle y le cambian el morro a Checo Pérez. Fernando ya es sexto. No tenemos muy claros cuáles son las velocidades punta, porque la que solemos tener nos la dan en aplicaciones. Tenemos como le pasa fácil. Hamilton
Into the
cuarto.
Available for
as Lando just gets in, he's slightly more defined. Lewis
Que Norris.
really low grip at the
Próximo
copy.
obstáculo.
With the Norris has no to defend this. He's not Perez, and he just takes the crowd. It's another Hamilton ever popular around the Silverstone track, and he's into fourth ahead of
this time now through under DRS with place back. He'll now start to focus and look ahead at the slightly, well, stricken Leclerc, who has received a damage after a bit of contact coming into these first few corners. The front wing end plate hanging off of that Ferrari. The gap to Hamilton, 4.9 seconds at the moment. Lewis Hamilton looking in good shape to try and reel in third place Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari.
Verstappen le ha mantenido el pie abajo por el exterior, ha ido a defender el interior en la segunda de la 3.
into Stoke, not under any threat though, and I think Hamilton should just ease away. Lando didn't seem particularly confident fighting the Mercedes yesterday when he was asked about outqualifying George Russell. He managed to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton at the start this time, but it didn't last for too long there. Hamilton back into fourth. We're going to replay the start. Progressive, wasn't he? Sainz straight to the inside, and he just covered Verstappen off. They were very close to touching. That put Verstappen on the back foot because he was horribly to the inside in turn 1. Perez then had a run into turn 3, and then I think Leclerc's very aggressive here with with Perez. Perez dives towards the inside, actually squeezes Leclerc. The two go really wheel to wheel up towards the apex, and actually, I think it took two to tango really there. Perez suddenly dived to the inside, closed the space that was initially there for Leclerc, and basically they bundled together at the apex, and both had contact, and Perez has had to pit for repairs. Leclerc has front wing damage, which is costing him downforce, but not a huge...
Luego hay otro toque de Leclerc con Checo con Leclerc por el exterior se tira
So Perez has just boxed, just done purple first sector. He's managed to hold on to 12th at the moment, but Jenny's got news.
Yeah, one of the Aston Martins, I thought it was Vettel, just came into the pits on soft tyres, whoever it was. It's really hard to tell the difference sometimes between those two drivers, Stroll and Vettel, as I just eat a piece of my hair, apologies. But came into the pit lane, back out again now for the Aston Martin. And just worth saying, with those Ferraris in that position, what will Ferrari choose to do versus Red Bull? This is a fascinating contest now between this 2 versus 1 sandwich that Verstappen finds himself in.
There was double contact between Perez and Leclerc. They actually touched wheels on the exit of the corner as well, which could have been a lot worse for them, but it was a passing contact that they got away with. Verstappen looks pretty close to Sainz here. Within a second for the first time, he's reeled him in, the race leader. Leclerc at the moment not able to do much with that damage, so Ferrari...
Vamos a ver si Carlos puede...
To edge it over about a second now, but it's ebbing and flowing. Verstappen has reeled that in by a few tenths last lap around. Let's see as they go down the Wellington straight. I think he might have just been within DRS zone. Breaks into Brooklands, but still half a second give or take. Falls back to 8 tenths now. Verstappen hunting down Carlos Sainz for the lead of this race, but it is Red Bull versus Ferrari at the moment. But Ferrari with 2 cars in the game now. Perez is at the back having pitted, but a Leclerc injured as well with his car.
Yeah, he's still doing okay, Leclerc, but he's not able to run with Sainz and Verstappen quite as close as Verstappen is to the race leader. So Max now within a second, he had the DRS down the Wellington straight into Brooklands. He's gonna just close in again now. They come out of Beckett's down towards the hangar straight, another DRS chance for Verstappen. He's not close enough to the move, but he will close up to the back of the race leading Ferrari.
I think Leclerc is certainly starting to gain ground as we finish lap 8 of 52. It is still Carlos Sainz from pole position after a restarted race. Leads from Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Hamilton, Norris and Alonso the top 5. Alonso, Gasly, Tsunoda, Ocon, Latifi the top 10. Jenny.
Worth saying that when you come into the pit lane here, you lose about 20 seconds of time to come in, stop the car, all 4 wheels change, tyres change, and then head back out again onto the track. However, if you can do it under a virtual or safety car, it's less than 10 seconds because of the speed of cars on track, you lose less time. So it'll be fascinating to see what they do. Do they try and give some work to Leclerc's car?
He's a bit quicker.
Everyone can see that. Verstappen is right on the back of Sainz, was almost close enough for a move into...
I have nothing to work with. 0. Oh, really good.
In second place, homing in on the race leader Carlos Sainz, who is feeling the heat.
Coming through Cops now, approaching the rundown of Maggots and Beckett. Sainz is just within touching distance. We'll see what they're like coming through the next DRS. So through Maggots and Beckett they go. Adam Chappell, how good is the run for Max Verstappen? He's still going to get DRS, but I think he's actually just fallen a little bit back through that. He's closing and closing, but he's not close enough.
He had quite an understeery exit of Beckett, just couldn't get the front end in and had to wait for the throttle, so he couldn't have the run he wanted to attack Sainz into Stowe corner. Leclerc's not really closing in on these two at the moment. He's stabilised on pace and was just half a tenth quicker than his teammate on the last lap. So still 1v1 at the front. Sainz leads from Verstappen. Max still 7 tenths away as they cross the line into very quick Abbey corner, and then it's into the hairpins. And if Sainz makes one...
Okay, Pierre, we start to see sign of graining. So we need a bit more management. Turn 1, please.
In the pits for us, you're listening to British Grand Grand Prix coverage on BBC Radio 5 Live, BBC Sounds and BBC Northampton, the BBC Sport website and on the Formula 1 app. DRS open for Max Verstappen on the approach into Brooklands. He's closing under braking. One mistake from Carlos Sainz, as you say, Jolyon Palmer, is going to unlock Max Verstappen. It's the other way round this time compared to what it was in Montreal a few weeks ago. Approaching Copse, fastest lap for Sergio Perez meanwhile. How close can Verstappen get through Copse?
It's difficult to follow through there, but they are really, really close. Just half a second separated them at the apex of Copse corner. A very, very quick right-hander. Just a blend out of the throttle, then you can hear them flashing through maggots. Now the wiggles, big mistake from Sainz.
Big mistake from Sainz. He goes off into the grass on the exit of Chapel. That's all Verstappen needs. He gets measure, but Sainz with a swapper on the front end holds it, but has to take to the grass out of Chapel, and he's lost the lead of this race. Max Verstappen now leads as we come to the end of lap 10.
Oh, Carlos. Couldn't take the pressure then from the Red Bull. A mistake, an unforced error from the race leader, and Verstappen now leads. All of that hard defence he did on the first lap of the restart goes to waste. Verstappen was just bearing down on him. He knows how good the Red Bull driver is. He knows how good the Red Bull car is as well. They used to be teammates, but he's just made a big mistake on a crucial corner that leads onto that hanger straight, ran wide, went a little bit off track, grass tracking on the way back, desperate to keep the lead, but Verstappen was too close, and through goes Max to the lead. That's a big mistake from Sainz for the lead there.
Definitely driver mistake.
Yeah, he took an oversteer on the right-hander, and the rear end of the car just snapped at him.
So Lando, Alonso 1.9, Ocon 7.5, all the way tight back to Stroll, who is 13.7.
Now leading 1.2 seconds the gap, Jenny.
Yeah, just to bring you in a medical update. So the FIA have said that the driver in car number 24, Zhou Guanyu, is under observation at the medical centre here at Silverstone following a heavy accident at the beginning of this race. Alex Albon has now been transferred by helicopter to Coventry Hospital for precautionary checks. We've seen that George Russell, fine. He has been checked by the medical staff and was declared fit.
Thanks, Jenny. Lap 11, Leclerc closing, coming through Stowe. DRS open for the Monegasque. Now, what are we going to see here? Is it going to be Ferrari team orders as we see Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly coming together, both spinning around? I think Tsunoda was down on the inside.
Oh no, the two.
So just for info, both Alpha Tauri spun at turn 3. They're ahead of you still, but now well within the pit window.
And as he was spinning, he's hit Gasly as well, and it's the worst thing you can do. Teammates taking each other out. I think they were battling in the top 10 as well. What a disaster.
Gasly now down to 13th, Tsunoda down to 15th. Not what AlphaTauri wanted. Ferrari are going to have some important strategic calls to make. How hard is Sainz going to fight this? Because Leclerc is looking like the faster Ferrari right now as they come on the run down to Copse. Half a second in it, Leclerc all over the back of Carlos Sainz.
Sainz has just got back within a second of Verstappen as well. They're really concertinaing up now in the top 3. Sainz not letting Verstappen away. But if I'm Ferrari, I'm telling Sainz to get out of the way for Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's got some damage, but he is still managing to reel in his teammate. Sainz has made the big mistake on his own. But Verstappen's slowing.
Verstappen is going slow. Once again out through Chapel where Sainz made the mistake a lap ago. Sainz now is side by side. He's going to retake the lead. Coming into the right-hander of Stowe. Sainz has gone through. Verstappen slowing. Puncture for Max Verstappen, who makes it back into the pit lane. Sainz goes through to retake the lead ahead of Leclerc. Jenny Gao is down in the pits for us.
Yeah, Verstappen comes in. I cannot tell you, it was so loud when they were cheering for Verstappen, who had that incident. Verstappen has changed onto another set of the medium tyres, if I can see correctly, and the wheels spin back out. But the reaction here at Silverstone to that misfortune, Verstappen, very, very vocal.
If it's a puncture for Verstappen, it happened at a good time.
efectivamente, fijaos en las enlazadas, lo
Check the tires, otherwise there's something with the car. It's still not good.
Understood, Max. We're looking.
Yeah, there's something broken on the rear.
But picking up a puncture, Sainz back through now in the lead. Leclerc behind him in the second Ferrari. Former Grand Prix driver Jolyon Palmer is alongside me for this one.
Yeah, Verstappen ran wide over a curb. Was that the cause of the puncture? He was just looking like he was going to run away with this Grand Prix, but it's gone wrong for a puncture. But crucially, near the pit lane entry, so he's able to pit at a sensible time without too much time lost. Both Ferraris just swept around him, but he didn't lose a huge amount. The strategy changes. He went medium tyres to medium tyres. He's plunged down the order temporarily, but it's not game over for Verstappen. If the puncture came earlier, he would have lost a heap more time there.
Sainz now through to take the lead ahead of Leclerc as Max Verstappen comes into the pits. That puts Lewis Hamilton up as well into the top spots as we continue.
Consider
setting up turn 4.
Speaking of the line, and it was a massive lockup.
Check the tires, otherwise there's something with the car. It's still not good.
Understood, Max. We're looking.
Yeah, there's something broken on the rear.
Something broken on the rear potentially. Max Verstappen not happy in that Red Bull, so maybe it wasn't just a simple case of picking up a puncture.
No, well that's worst case for him. Then he's come in, taken the pit stop. He's down to 6th position, so Hamilton's through into 3rd, and Hamilton's been flying as well, by the way. Whilst we've been talking about the lead battle, he's only 5 seconds away from the Ferrari still ahead. So Lewis Hamilton having a strong drive in the Mercedes. Norris is now 4th, Alonso 5th, then Verstappen.
Not what Max Verstappen wanted to be saying on the radio. He's currently in 6th. Sainz leads ahead of Leclerc. Hamilton.
And obviously had that big lock-up. Now that would indicate that someone had a puncture because the brakes are different, but I had a good look at all of the 4 tyres when he came in and it didn't look like any of them were low. There's 18-inch very low profile and very stiff tyres this year, and it just didn't look like that was the problem. Obviously Verstappen reporting that that wasn't the problem. Let's have team radio.
Okay, Max, can confirm it's bodywork damage, loss of rear. It is not critical, so you are able to continue, but you will have a performance loss.
Okay, not critical then for Max Verstappen, but he's clearly not happy in that car. He's pitted down into 6th, but that's not what he really wants to hear, I suppose. He can keep going, but that Red Bull, he's going to try and have to work around the problem.
Well, his first sector was actually the quickest of anyone on that lap. His middle sector's not, and that's where the faster corners are through Cox, Maggots and Beckett. And it obviously was, from probably running over the curb, he's damaged.
His pace is good, Lewis. Got every chance here.
He backed off through the high-speed corners, but not the case maybe for Red Bull then. They've changed their strategy. He's down to 6th with an early pit stop and not driving a car that's fully functional, nor is Leclerc.
Okay, maybe off the sides, mate. I'm losing the car everywhere.
You have less rear aerodynamic load, but there's nothing we can do about it. We'll try to correct it at the next stop in terms of balance, but it is not structural, so you are safe to continue.
It's a great radio message. Well, not what someone wants to hear, but it's a great one in terms of clarity of information there to Max. He now knows exactly what he needs to do, and Sainz is having to defend it from Charles Leclerc down towards Stowe. No team orders yet at Ferrari. Maybe Verstappen is not in the picture because basically the team's saying you've got damage to the rear bodywork, you've lost downforce, we can't do anything about it, mate, but next time you come in the pits we'll take off some front downforce and balance the car so it's less sketchy through the corners. Basically he's going to have less oversteer when he pits in.
Nice work, Lewis. Fastest lap, 33.2, 4.8.
It's going to get really, really tight down the Wellington Straight, I think, Harry.
Lap 16 of 52, Carlos Sainz is still leading just ahead of Leclerc. Hamilton in 3rd, just steals the fastest lap back from Leclerc. Norris is 4th, Alonso 5th, Verstappen is 6th, as Sainz now comes on to the Wellington Straight. DRS open for Charles Leclerc behind him. He's closing 7/10 of a second. He's a bit far back coming into the braking zone, but he'll try again in the run down and the exit next of Lufford into Brooklands.
Surprised there's no team orders yet for Ferrari. Leclerc, the main driver in the championship, is really putting Sainz under pressure. Fair play to Ferrari for letting them fight. I criticised Red Bull earlier on for ordering Perez past Verstappen when they were under no threat. Maybe they're under no threat from Verstappen right now. What's Max doing on lap times? He's 1.4 seconds slower than the Ferrari, so at the moment, until they can rebalance...
Gap is 1.9 at the moment.
In the race lead, it's fastest lap for him on the last lap, 4 tenths quicker, and he's in the back of shot as Sainz is meandering down the hangar straight.
What do I need to do? I've built my race now.
Copy. I will come back to you.
I think Leclerc on the radio, they're making it clear what he wants to happen. He wants the swap because he's hunting down Sainz, who was weaving on that back straight, trying to break the toe as we start lap 17. Sainz still in front of Leclerc as the fastest lap once again goes to Lewis Hamilton.
6 tenths quicker on the last lap, Hamilton, than the race leader, Carlos Sainz. It's the sound of a replay of Leclerc barging into Perez on the opening lap at turn 3. That's what's cost Leclerc some front downforce. Perez pitted with front wing repairs as well. He also took an absolute whack from a bit of...
Sainz has been told that lap time is target is 32.9.
Yeah, but then do something, please. I'm not trying to influence my result, I can go faster, guys.
He was given the black and orange flag for that one and forced to come in. Leclerc, not so much.
Scary one for the driver behind as well. It really did hit the cockpit side there of Perez. That's why Magnussen got the black and orange last time out to stop that happening. I guess that came off on the first lap or very early on, so it didn't have a chance to fall off later on. So maybe the FIA saying, well, it's come off now. There's nothing more to break on the car.
Well, the battle ensues up front. Sainz still fending off Leclerc. Hamilton in third. Jenny, what have you got?
I think this is fascinating because we know Leclerc has dropped down 5 points of downforce. Now what that relates to, I don't know speed-wise, but it's quite a big hit on the downforce levels, yet he's still pretty...
I know this is good so far. At the moment, still plan A, at least target, look to extend. Lap time is, target is 32.9.
Yeah, but then do something, please. I'm not trying to influence my result, I can go faster, guys.
Well, Leclerc arguing there with the Ferrari pit wall. Sainz has been told to hit a lap time, and that's what he's doing. And that's, well, Leclerc's not happy about that.
But he's not doing it, Harry. He's done a 33.3 last time out, so he's 4 tenths away from the target lap time. Basically, it's a hurry up from Ferrari. They're saying to Carlos Sainz, pick up your pace, because actually we've got a threat from Hamilton behind, who is slowly catching them up. Hamilton was 3 tenths quicker on the last lap than Leclerc. He's only 3.5 seconds away from the second Ferrari, who's right on the tail of the first Ferrari. And Ferrari, by not doing team orders at the moment, full credit to them, letting their drivers race, giving the crowd what they want, giving us all what we want. It's a fight at the moment between them.
You need to push more,
It's the silver arrows closing down on the 2 Ferraris. Sainz has to pick up his pace, otherwise he's going to have Hamilton joining the top 3 soon.
Yeah, while they do battle, Hamilton is closing on them, currently in third place with the fastest lap, Jenny.
Yeah, on Max Verstappen, he came in thinking he had a puncture. He didn't have a puncture. There's a problem with the car, so in essence, he's going to have to end up doing an extra pit stop.
It's a good lap. Keep pushing. We are on Hamilton lap times. Yep.
Being told to keep pushing, he's on Hamilton's lap times. That's the message from the Ferrari pit wall to Carlos Sainz, Julian.
He's not on Hamilton's lap times though, he's done a 33.1. And
why are they lying
Hamilton
to him?
has just done the fastest lap. He's in the ballpark of Hamilton's lap times, but Lewis with a 32.9, doing what Sainz has been told to target, is another couple of tenths quicker, and that time 4 tenths quicker than Leclerc, 3.2 seconds away. Soon, we're going to have 3 cars for the lead.
So Sainz has been told to push.
Yeah, copy. I try to keep my eye on the losing race time.
Copy.
Between the 2 scarlet red Ferraris out in front, Sainz leads on lap 19 ahead of Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, the top 4, Alonso, Verstappen, Ocon, Latifi, Bottas, Ricciardo, the top 10.
Verstappen's drifting away though, he is drifting away with his damage. He's pitted, which wasn't the worst thing to do at that time. The first one, a guaranteed long 2-stopper, but it's recoverable. Problem is the pace he's got isn't there. It wasn't a tyre issue, as we've heard, it was a bodywork issue. He's missing some aero parts at the back of his car. He's 2 seconds a lap slower than Hamilton, and he's on fresh tyres in clear air.
So Sainz has been told to push. I tried to keep my fire. I'm just losing race time.
Copy. Leclerc doesn't understand it, why they're not allowing him through. I mean, how he's got this pace with no foaming end plate is just staggering, how he's this much quicker than Sainz. Able to follow his teammate in the dirty air. He's just crossed the line for the fastest lap, taken immediately by Lewis Hamilton. Behind Hamilton, 2/10 quicker than Leclerc, 4/10 quicker than Sainz. He is closing.
Lewis Hamilton is in with a shot of closing right up to the back of the two Ferraris, squabbling over the lead of this race. And if they carry on squabbling, well, it's going to be the Mercedes man fighting for the win of the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton with the fastest lap, just a few seconds back, while his teammate George Russell watches on from the garage out on this race early doors. Lap 20, it feels like we've been here a lot longer than just 20 laps because of that 53-minute red flag, but we are back underway. And once again, Leclerc still not through. Pit stops happening. Mick Schumacher's in. Yuki Tsunoda has come in for a second time as well, and that is a set of the hards for Mick Schumacher.
Need to push.
Venga, una buena parada, es básico ahora, ya no solo por Leclerc, también por Hamilton.
To be told to push when you can do no more. He is pushing, he just isn't quick enough at the moment, Sainz. Latifi fitted as well from the top 10, by the way. He was having a solid drive so far, Nicholas Latifi, in for a stop. Leclerc is very close into Stoke, but not close enough. And Sainz, I think, is going to pit this lap, comes out of Stoke corner, hangs to the right, and in he comes. Leclerc's released into the race lead.
Now, does that get out Ferrari of making an on-track call here? Let's see how it all unfolds. Sainz comes into the pit lane now. Leclerc will take over the lead of this race ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who will come across the line now. Leclerc hits his markers, coming into his grid spot, into the pit lane, tyres off, changing is the harder compound tyre, and away he goes. Sainz in the pits, I should say. Leclerc leading Hamilton. Sainz pit exit now.
2.5 seconds, it's a good stop from the Ferrari crew. Mediums to hard, switching with the...
What's happening?
Lando Norris, so Sainz pits and remains in third place. What sort of pace does Leclerc have now? He's in clear air. He's been saying how much quicker he is than his teammate. It looked to be the case when he was able to follow so closely for so long. Now he needs to unleash some pace to try and leapfrog his teammate, otherwise he's going to come up behind him in the second stint.
Yeah, this could solve all his problems, Leclerc, or it could make a million more from him. We'll see how it unfolds. Leclerc out in front, Hamilton second, as Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, the only remaining Alfa Romeo, is into the pit lane, and it looks like it might be early doors for the finished racer. He's lifted up onto the jacks, and I think that's Bottas out of this race.
Both Alfa Romeos out then. Joe with the nasty crash at the start, and Valtteri Bottas out on lap 21. Mechanical from him, and he's turned the car off.
Leclerc pushing.
Just a reminder, Leclerc still carrying.
Okay, Valtteri, we need to slow down, we need to slow in.
Ahora hay que ver la vuelta que Carlos va a dar. Está en vuelta rápida la Carlos personal, o sea que está bajando los tiempos y se puede proteger de...
29.5 primer sector, es el más rápido de los tres de cabeza.
Held that record as well, but then he did win in the 10th race. What race is this? It's race number 10 of the calendar. Hamilton is coming quickly up behind Leclerc. The gap now 2.2 seconds. Lap 22 of 52 of this British Grand Prix. Sainz has pitted onto the harder compound tyre from the lead. He's come out in third ahead of Norris and Alonso.
If there is no graining on the medium, then we should drop a little bit, like Alpha 10 or something.
If they try and overcut Leclerc around Sainz, no doubt they pitted Sainz to avoid a team orders question. Hamilton's closing in. Leclerc was just banging on about how he was being held up. and wanted the team orders to let Sainz through. Ferrari, instead of doing that, just opted to pit Carlos Sainz from the race lead, and that left Leclerc from Hamilton. But Leclerc's not showing any more pace. He's not able to improve, actually, now his teammate's out of the way, and Hamilton is still bearing down on him. This is a genuine fight for the race lead. Leclerc comes through 32.7. Hamilton, fastest lap of the race, it's a 32.4.
Just nearly under 2 seconds the gap now. Hamilton closing. It was over 3 seconds just a couple of laps to go. He is closing, and he is closing quickly. Lewis Hamilton onto the back of Charles Leclerc. Does this bode a problem?
There's a strong warm-up on the hard time. Verstappen also struggling. He's in the 34s.
Just stay out a little bit longer if Leclerc pits before him.
Sainz on the new hard tyres is the same pace as Leclerc, and he's slower than Hamilton. Hamilton is still finding pace on the medium tyres. They're durable enough to keep going on lap 23 of 52. I guess we had a couple of laps knocked off for the restart.
Copy.
Ocon into the pits in the Alpine. He was running in the top 10 as well. Looked a tidy enough stop from Alpine. Ocon, who's fortunate to still be in this Grand Prix when the team did brilliant repairs under the red flag conditions, and he's looking at a points finish possibly for today, although that's just going to knock him towards the edge of the top 10. What did Ferrari do with Leclerc's wing? Do they change the front wing now at the cost of a long pit stop and then have some performance later on? Or do they just say, let's live with it and have a quicker pit?
And we need full push.
Especially with that front wing, but around for another lap they go. Lap 24, Hamilton going faster too, and a much longer pit stop would be required if Leclerc does come in for a front wing change as well as tyres.
Half the second quicker was Lewis Hamilton.
And we need full push. Full push.
Full push from the Ferrari pit wall to Leclerc. Jenny?
Yeah, just having a look. This is definitely converted to a one stop for the drivers out there. Everyone converging on the hard tyre. Now Red Bull come out into the pit lane. They've got a set of hard tyres there. They're ready to welcome Max Verstappen into the pit lane. So the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, the one with the damage. He didn't like the rear end and how it was feeling, but he's coming into the pit lane now. He'll go onto the hard tyres, but what can they do to get that car feeling better, the balance feeling better? That's the question. Right, he is back out and into this race.
No grip.
Wing, and you can correct the balance even if you're missing overall performance. But Verstappen with 2 pit stops in quite quick succession now is falling down to 7th place. Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin goes side by side with him into Village Corner. It's not working out for Verstappen, but maybe they can rebalance him and try and get into the end. Vettel sneaks through and the crowd enjoyed it.
Sebastian Vettel going round in the Aston Martin. That was for 7th overall for the time being. Pit stops coming thick and fast here at the British Grand Prix. We're still waiting though for our leaders to come in. What are they going to do with Charles Leclerc? Not as fast as Lewis Hamilton with a damaged front wing too.
Hamilton 3/10 quicker again.
Lap 25 of 52 at the British Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is leading with a...
So Verstappen's got damage, so he is slow. He was slower than you before he stopped on the mediums. So he's currently 2.5 behind you.
And he is reeling in Leclerc. Former Grand Prix driver Julian Palmer alongside me. Max Verstappen, meanwhile, who was leading this race briefly, running into trouble, struggling in that Red Bull.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was a puncture for Verstappen. He's got a bigger problem with the Red Bull and he's falling out of contention. He's just made a second stop and will not be troubling the race leaders, which includes Lewis Hamilton, who's bearing down on Charles Leclerc now for the race lead. Carlos Sainz has pitted. Ferrari were trying to get him out of the way for Leclerc, their championship charger, to take the lead. Leclerc's not then unleashed a load more pace. Hamilton, would you believe it, at Silverstone, is breathing down the neck of the race lead.
It is getting closer and closer. The Brits second, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris in 4th. Back to you, Gigi. That gap is coming down. It's under a second now. If he can maintain it, he will be in that DRS as Leclerc comes into the...
Okay, Max has got the pole on his car, and he's starting to slow down the pack in front.
To risk that front wing change, Jenny Gow's there.
Yes, he flashes past me in a Scala Ferrari. He has the medium tyres on at the moment. They have a set of the hard tyres ready to go, so they jump on that car, all hands on deck. It doesn't look like they've done a huge change to it, so no front wing change for Charles Leclerc. He's going to have to live with it. He's going to have to try and battle for the lead of this race with a damage-stricken car, whilst Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes is going to have to try and hunt him down.
Here comes Carlos Sainz, and he makes it through on his teammate Leclerc. Comes out in third behind Sainz. They didn't change that front wing. It was a fairly smooth stop.
I don't know why they hit me on these tires with damage on the car. I'm driving on ice.
Verstappen, by the way, is in 8th, and he's under pressure from Nicholas Latifi in 9th. Latifi's having an absolute blinding drive.
Let's go for it.
Who is having a nightmare out there? He's panicking. This was a race that he had under control when he took the move for the race lead on Carlos Sainz, but oh so shortly after he had damage and he's not able to recover it. He doesn't have the pace.
Lando Norris still holding on in 4th. He hasn't stopped, still going on that medium compound tyre. The sound you're hearing is riding on board with Lewis Hamilton.
Copy Lewis. Let's go for it.
That's not what Ferrari wants to hear. Tyre's still good.
And Ferrari then opting not to change the front wing of Charles Leclerc. He had enough pace to, he was quicker than his teammate on that first stint, so he's got enough pace in the car, but they couldn't afford to take what could be another 10 seconds for a front wing change, because Hamilton simply would have just taken control of the Grand Prix, and the Mercedes has the pace of the Ferrari from what we've seen so far. Now he's got no one ahead of him. The crowd are enjoying it. Hamilton is out front.
I have no info now. I don't know what happened to the front wing.
Tyres as well, and hanging on in there near their personal best lap times. The mediums don't look like they're dropping away too much. And Ferrari got another decision to make soon, because Leclerc's just a couple of seconds down from his teammate. Are they going to have to team orders at this time?
The Ferrari squabble about to re-ensue. I can't believe we would be saying this in a commentary in 2022, but these are the first laps Lewis Hamilton has led since the finale last year. Lewis Hamilton with that gap now to Sainz. Still yet to pit though for Lewis Hamilton, Jenny.
Yes, still waiting to see him come into the pit lane, but it looks like that's going to happen. Oh no, they're just moving out of the way because one of the AlphaTauris is coming in to pit. Verstappen's already been in. He started on the softs, race was aborted. Then at the restart, mediums, to another set of mediums, to the hards. He says it feels like he's on ice out there.
Okay, understood. This pace is good. Alonso struggling with Riz. Lando, this is the German situation.
He's not happy out there.
So what they've done is probably take out front wing, but it hasn't helped the rear. It's just made the front worse, and now the rear's no better, so the grip level's just gone. He's on hard tyres, which inherently have less grip, and he's got Latifi just behind him in the Williams.
Curiously, both AlphaTauris in with a black and orange flag for Gasly and for Yuki Tsunoda. So clearly damage on those cars having to be replaced as the AlphaTauri spend an age on the pit lane, but back out on track. Fastest lap for Charles Leclerc.
Gasly was going up onto the stands. He's out of the Grand Prix. Another retirement then. Gasly joining Bottas and Russell, Joe and Albon all out of the race. Tsunoda is off the back of the pack as well. Remember they had the contact together when Tsunoda spun and knocked Gasly into a spin as well, presumably.
So we are right on top of the pit window from Hamilton.
Running 9th, Esteban Ocon is closing up on him for the minor points placings at the moment. Latifi having an excellent Grand Prix by the Williams standards, and Esteban Ocon lucky to be in this race and still going.
Hamilton's quicker than Sainz. Sainz is on a new hard tyre, and Hamilton 4/10 quicker on the last lap. It's 18 seconds the gap. He's going to come out right now if he were to pit right with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's on the back of his teammate, 1 second between the two. Surely Ferrari just now have to accept Sainz will not win this race with the pace that he's got. Leclerc is their hope. Get Sainz out of the way and give Leclerc a run to win the Grand Prix. By playing fair early on, it's admirable. It's what everyone wants to see. But it might have really shot themselves in the foot, because Leclerc was held back, was moaning for a long time that it was costing his race time, and it surely was.
And we are free to fight. So we are right on top of the pit window from Hamilton.
They're losing out more, another 10th and a half. Sainz raised his pace. Leclerc did the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but Hamilton split the two Ferraris on pace. He was a 10th and a half quicker than Sainz still, and he hasn't pitted. He's still got some new tyres to go onto, and he's going to be very racy when he does. Leclerc now tucked in behind Sainz with DRS, but there's still no signs of team orders.
And we are free to fight.
Well, free to fight from the Ferrari pit wall to Leclerc there. Ferrari battle on.
Oh, there's admirable and then there's foolish for Ferrari, and I think this is verging on the foolish. Sainz has already made a big mistake from the lead and let Verstappen through. Now he's costing Leclerc a chance to win the Grand Prix. Hamilton is a genuine threat. I don't know if Ferrari aren't taking it seriously or they're just wanting to be absolutely genuinely fair to their drivers. It's admirable in many.
Now car ahead of Mick is Latifi. Come on, we can get him.
And their main driver, Charles Leclerc, on a day where Verstappen is going to score minor points, they've got to be looking to maximise what he can score. This is a chance for him to win a Grand Prix, come back into the fight and get it within a one-race win of the championship lead. And with not getting Sainz out of the way, Hamilton is looking like he's becoming maybe the favourite for this race.
Tell you what, this is all playing into the hands of Lewis Hamilton as Esteban Ocon gets in front of Nicholas Latifi for 9th, Jenny.
Yes, I'm equally as conflicted as Jolyon here. I love to see a proper race between drivers, whether they are the same team or not. But at the moment, this is just damaging Ferrari, and they know Leclerc has a damaged car. He can't go at full pace. Maybe that's what's leading them to think they should just be out there fighting. But it's weird, it's hard.
Okay, 32-2, otherwise we swap in the cars. Okay, one more lap.
One more lap to try and go quicker for Sainz. He's not done a 32.2, he's done a 32.4.
So target lap time for Sainz is 32.2, otherwise we'll swap.
But we are losing time compared to Hamilton. 2.2 is not enough, in my opinion. So you choose.
Understood.
There was no other threat. It was Red Bull v Red Bull, and that was it for the win. And the two were actually fairly close in the championship stakes. And I thought it would have been nice to see them fight, but Verstappen was pretty much guaranteed the win anyway because he was that much quicker, and the team orders seemed a bit over the top. Here, Ferrari have a big threat. They have Lewis Hamilton that can beat them. It's different to Red Bull in Barcelona, and Hamilton is looking like a bigger and bigger threat, as is Charles Leclerc for Carlos Sainz.
He's going to come and have a lunge down into Stowe. He thinks about it very, very late in the day, but Sainz holds on. Leclerc making his presence very well known.
So target lap time for Sainz is 32.2, otherwise we'll swap.
But we are losing time compared to Hamilton. 2.2 is not enough.
Okay, copy. So yeah, Ferrari's inverted Leclerc ahead of Sainz.
In my opinion, for Leclerc, but I think he's taken that and he is running with it and trying to find every move in the book. Down through Village, it's going to be a late one. He doesn't, he has a look, but Sainz still holding on, but he's going to be all over the back of him. Coming now onto the Wellington straight. How good is the run out for Leclerc? He'll get DRS and close right onto the back of Sainz.
Oh, this is not good enough. We are swapping the cars. Copy.
And he gets through, Sainz being told, not good enough, let your teammate through. Leclerc goes through into second.
It's taken a long time. I mean, they literally had to fight on track for it to happen. Sainz did a 32.7, not helped by the fact that he had to actually defend from Leclerc into Stowe, and not the 32.2, so half a second slower than Ferrari demanded. Leclerc finally then passed Carlos Sainz, who has not had the race pace today. Leclerc, even though he's missing part of his front wing, is a lot quicker than his pole-sitting teammate, and now
Lando, the hard really does not look great.
Ahead of Leclerc. It's about 19 seconds for a pit stop, so if Hamilton were to pit, which he has to do still, he's going to come out with Leclerc, but he's going to come out on fresher tyres. This is really juicy for the last 20 laps of this race. It's going to be a really good one. And do you remember last year, it was Hamilton v Leclerc for the win then as well, wasn't it? It was unlikely, because Mercedes was so quick and Ferrari were not. Here, this year, 2022, Ferrari are so quick, Mercedes are not. It's unlikely again, but it's happening again.
And Leclerc, let's remember, with that damaged front wing as well, going superbly fast. The gap 18.6 seconds at the moment. As you say, it's about a 19-second stop in the pit lane. So Hamilton still going well over halfway distance. Lap 32 of 52 here at the British Grand Prix, Jenny.
Yeah, I think he and Norris are just waiting to see if a safety car is going to come out, because neither of them have stopped. If a safety car were to come out...
Lando, the hard really does not look great. Okay, I'll try and extend one.
Actually, I can't see how far back Norris is, but potentially first and second, at least two on British people on the podium. So let's see what happens with that one. And just a quick update, Zhou Guanyu, who had that big crash at the beginning of this race, has been declared fit and released from the medical centre. So very good news for Zhou Guanyu.
Great news for him. That's exactly what we wanted to hear after a horrible-looking incident. Pleased that the Formula 1 safety standards have held out in the end, and it's testament to that then that he's declared fit after a worrying incident. Norris isn't in contention for a podium, I don't think, here with the safety car. I mean, he's fourth and 14 seconds away from the two Ferraris, and of course the Ferraris can also pit under safety car as well. They could choose to do a second stop if they so wished. It's a great drive from Lando. He's making the most of it, and you never know.
I can't maintain this pace forever, mate.
Yeah, copy this. You're doing a great job though. So let's just keep building this offset.
He'd be in charge if a safety car came out now. As it is, it's very, very tight. Hamilton v Leclerc, maybe with a sprinkling of Sainz meddling to help his teammate. Without with the safety car, Hamilton will pit, emerge in the lead, and be on a charge to the win here.
It is very tight and getting tighter all the time as Leclerc just slowly eating away into that gap with another fastest lap time. Further down the field, Mick Schumacher getting up into 10th.
So Leclerc 31.8 for 1.4 unsafe to him.
Pete Bonington on the radio there to Lewis Hamilton, unsafe to Leclerc. So they are watching that gap. They know exactly what they're trying to do. The sound you're hearing is riding on board with Kevin Magnussen, who wants to be next to get through on Nicholas Latifi, who's been having an excellent run but is now starting to struggle as one Haas has gone through already.
So Sebastian, your pace is really good. We'd like to try and get to the end. We need to do a bit of fuel saving, combine that with front left. So a bit more saving in turn 9, 15 and 1. So based on the tyre data we've got, we are happy to extend this stint. There we go, P7 at the moment.
He's in, Jenny.
It's the hard tyres that go on. It's a it's a slow stop for Hamilton. Something did not go well for that. Norris came in at the same time, so both cars coming in, but a slow stop for Lewis Hamilton.
4.3 for Hamilton, 4.4 for Ricciardo, who's come in as well. And Hamilton, where does he come out though? And he's behind both Ferraris as he exits the pit lane. Leclerc goes through to take the lead ahead of Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton switching on to the hard compound tyre, comes out in third, but on much younger tyres, and that gap about 3 seconds to Sainz.
Should have been pretty close to Sainz. He was going to come out behind him regardless. Should have been closer. Slow.
Okay, box this lap, Challenging.
And that's information then to Hamilton, weaving down the Wellington straight, trying to get some heat into the tyres now. Hard tyres that will take him through the last 18 laps of the race. And now it's all hands on deck then for Hamilton to try and clear both Ferraris. First of all, Carlos Sainz, then Charles Leclerc for a race win. That's the sound of an agonisingly long pit stop. 4.3 seconds used to be, it would have been a thriller back in the day, but in modern times, it's about 2 seconds too long. And Hamilton there losing precious time in a race where he's genuinely in a fight for the win.
It was just slow getting off the front jack. Didn't know there was any particular issue going on with any of the tyres coming on and off, but just slow to release. But that has put him now down to third. Here's Sainz.
Okay, think about it for later. If Charles gives the DRS, no way Hamilton passes me.
Copy.
Ferrari then, are they going to think about playing some DRS games? Sainz worried then Hamilton will just be able to breeze past him once he gets up to the back of him.
Yeah, so Sainz then saying to his race engineer, think about it as a tactic. Think about telling Charles not to go too quick so that Carlos Sainz can stay within 1 second of him and have DRS and basically form a bit of a DRS train to defend from Lewis Hamilton when he's going to catch up, if he can catch up on these hard tyres. Sainz now is nearly 2 seconds adrift of his teammate there, so he is falling away, and that's actually what Hamilton needs. He doesn't want Sainz to be within a second of Leclerc, because Carlos Sainz is absolutely right. It will make it much harder for Hamilton to pass.
Lando Norris has a very quick pit stop, much quicker than Hamilton the lap before. 2.8 seconds for Norris. He's in and he is out for Lando Norris. Leclerc still leading, 1.9 from Sainz. Hamilton, Perez and Norris comes out in 5th. Perez with that early stop on the medium compound, up into 4th at the moment. So Perez having to go very long on those tyres, getting up to speed, but he'll probably have to go. Do you think he can last on that one?
You'd have thought he's going to come back into the pit.
And Hamilton is 4.4 behind you, and it's Ricciardo in between. And he just pitted for soft. Ricciardo soft behind you. Blue flag.
Which I think he's going to have to do.
Lap 35, Jenny.
Yes, sorry, Perez, team radio.
So yeah, it's a stop with slow. As soon as these tyres come in, we will have good pace.
So he's waiting for the tyres to come in, because he was 3 seconds coming out on the pit stop. He's now nearly 4 seconds behind, so he's losing a second with that tyre warm-up. We saw him weaving down the Wellington straight to try and get some heat into those hard compound tyres for Hamilton, wondering why he's going so slowly, compounded by the slightly slow pit stop too.
6 seconds off the race lead with that slow stop for Hamilton. So he has fallen a little bit away. He's going to need to unlock some more pace to reel the Ferraris back in, and as he needs to put some more pace.
You check your display. We need a LICO for 2%-ish from now on.
For Sainz at the moment, as we see Esteban Ocon lining up a move on Max Verstappen coming into Stowe. Doesn't make it work through there, Jenny.
Yeah, just looking at the points as it stands. So Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton finish, and it would be Verstappen on 179 points, Leclerc on 152 points with the fastest lap to his name at the moment. That means quite a big swing back in favour of Leclerc. So 27 points would be the gap between Leclerc in second place in the championship and Verstappen. Remember, Verstappen came into this leading by 49 points. Okay, 46 points from Perez, his teammate, but the gap between him and Leclerc was 49 points. So if this ends up the way it is, then that's a good clawback recovery from Leclerc, but I don't want to jinx anything quite yet.
It's not going to end as it is.
Daniel, you should not use DRS. Do not use DRS, as it may not return.
He did. Holds on for now.
You can check your display. We need a LICO for 2%-ish from now on.
Sainz frustrated there, I think, at the least.
Not entirely sure what they were telling him there. Couldn't make that out. I hope it wasn't to find a bit more pace, because they've been saying that for 37 laps so far, and he's told them numerous times that there's nothing more to come. Hamilton on the last lap was 7/10 quicker than Sainz, who is going to be under pressure. He's 3 seconds away from his teammate. Sainz has no race pace today. He's really struggling for pace, and Hamilton is going to be with him soon. Leclerc is finding more time though on these new hard tyres.
He certainly is, and Esteban Ocon further back in the Alpine, running well, closing right onto the back of a struggling Max Verstappen into the right-hander of Stowe. Is actually a fairly easy move for Esteban Ocon, who slides down the inside on the reigning world champion. Ocon.
Okay, we're currently P5. The current front is Perez, 15 seconds. He pitted on lap 5 for a medium.
Yeah, but what lap time did he do? He's probably going to be fine to the end.
Just can't do anything. We were running on board with Ocon a little bit on the last lap, and you can just see Verstappen scrabbling around, missing some apexes, struggling to get the car stopped or turned in because he's missing that rear downforce. And on the hard tyres, it seems a bit compounded.
The move being done there by Esteban Ocon. 15 laps to go here at the British Grand Prix. Pit stop shaking the order out. Leclerc leads on the harder compound tyre ahead of Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, who after a slightly slower stop is now starting to eat into the two Ferraris in front of him. He's got the fastest lap. He's in third. Former Renault Formula 1 driver Jolyon Palmer is alongside me. This has been a fascinating British Grand Prix so far.
It has been really fascinating. Verstappen dropping out of contention, the championship leader. Perez, his teammate in the other Red Bull, had damage early on. The two Ferraris should have been in control, but they've had Lewis Hamilton for company. Mercedes with upgrades this weekend. Hamilton with a lot of pace is looking to try and catch the two Ferraris and close in and he's going to have to pass him to take the win. He had a slow stop though. He lost 2 seconds in the pit stops just a few laps ago, so that's left him with more work to do than he'd want. And whilst he's just taken the fastest lap on the last lap, it's only by a smidgen from Charles Leclerc, who looks to be his main competition here for the win.
The top 5, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Perez and Norris on lap 38 of the British Grand Prix, Gigi. Fastest Sector 2 time for Charles Leclerc, who now has a 4.1 second gap to Carlos Sainz. Hamilton now seems to have got these tyres up to speed. Now 1.9 seconds the gap between him and Carlos Sainz. Verstappen, oh, that's a slow Esteban Ocon, I think, or going slightly slowly because Verstappen has...
I have a problem, guys. I can't take it to the corners.
Inside and lets Verstappen breeze past him. Ocon back down now and falling into the clutches of Mick Schumacher. Is that a problem there for Esteban Ocon in the Alpine?
I think it must be. It looks like he's got no pace suddenly. He's he's got no drive at all. Ocon's slowing, and he's going to be another retirement here. Comes out of left field, pulls off to the right-hand side. Are we going to get a safety car hit? Can Ocon limp that car back to a safe place? No, he's moving it over to the right.
I have a problem, guys. I can't take it to the corners.
Can't exit the corners. Doesn't look like he had any drive coming out of them. Esteban Ocon shuttering along in the run down to Copse. It looks like that might be day done for the Alpine driver who was caught up in that skirmish in lap 1 on the opening lap in that huge incident coming in which involved Zhou Guanyu, and the Alpine team principal Otmar Zafnauer with head in his hand.
Yeah, I was understeering a lot on this tyre.
It will be a safety car. It will be a full safety car for where Ocon has stopped, because that's not in a good place at all. It's on the inside heading into Copse Corner. There's no easy gap, I don't think, to get that car off the road. Safety car has been called. If that had happened a few laps earlier, it would have been quits in for Lewis Hamilton. As it is, what happens now is Hamilton has a free stop behind. The Ferraris clearly don't. So Hamilton's got to do the opposite of whatever the Ferraris do, and Sainz pits. Leclerc stays out, Sainz pits, Hamilton pits.
Both coming into the pit lane. The time is dramatically lost in the pit lane under safety car. It's about 9 seconds, but coming off the back of a slow stop for Lewis Hamilton previously. Pressure now on the Mercedes mechanics. He comes in now, as does the Ferrari. Jenny Gow's down there.
Yeah, it's a soft set of tyres for Lewis Hamilton. He thinks he can get racy. Daniel Ricciardo and then McLaren comes in. He'd already been switched onto the soft tyre.
Leclerc's been picked up by the safety car. He has stayed out on the hard tyre.
You see, with 12 laps to go.
So Charles Leclerc leads the race still, as he was, but he should be collected by the safety car now. So he's going to go slowly. Because it's a full safety car, he's going to be at reduced pace. Sainz has had a free pit stop, and Hamilton has had a free pit stop. The rest of the pack will bunch up. It might have worked nicely for Sergio Perez to take a stop here. That's the sound of the Red Bull leaving the pit, squealing away on a set of soft tyres as well. And Leclerc is going to be under big pressure. Suddenly, Ferrari maybe have Sainz in the pound seat for this Grand Prix.
This certainly switches things up a bit. You cannot have predicted what has unfolded this afternoon at the British Grand Prix as Sergio Perez comes around. Leclerc has the lead but hasn't pitted under safety car.
Guys, are you sure this is the right tyre?
So no position loss.
Well, Hamilton questioning the strategy. He hasn't lost a position.
So Sainz and Hamilton behind with new soft.
That's going to be hard.
Get underway again. There's 12 laps to go now. They've still got to get Ocon's car off the road. Many other drivers pitting and putting on soft tyres as well. You know what? Perez is going to be fourth in this as well. Perez is suddenly looking at some points in the other Red Bull. He's taken a free pit stop, emerged on soft tyres. They pitted early on to repair his front wing. And Perez can get in the mix with Hamilton and the 2 Ferraris as well. This might have been a really tough call on Charles Leclerc now. He's going to have to defend on hard tyres with everyone behind him pretty much on a set of softs.
It's been a bit of a quiet race for Sergio Perez actually, but he snuck his way up there, as you say. The strategy working out at the moment. Latifi's come into the pits to his Leclerc.
So Sainz and Hamilton behind with new soft.
That's going to be hard.
We have got a good Grand Prix on our hands when this gets going.
Box now, box now.
leading the race, but on hard tyres towards the end of this. It's just going to be a sprint now to the flag. Sainz, his teammate, is going to be there. He's going to rear gunner him, or is Carlos Sainz fancying this as a maiden win for himself now? Having taken pole yesterday, he's not really been there in terms of pace today, but with strategy and luck there with the timing of the safety car, Sainz is maybe best placed to win this race. So soft tyres behind his teammate on the hards, but then there's Hamilton and Perez now. Perez back in contention in fourth. Ocon's car's removed. We're going to get going, hopefully quite soon.
I think so. We'll have about 10, just over 10 laps, depending on how quickly they get that cleared up. The Alpine well out of the way as Lando Norris comes into the pit lane and dives into his pit box. This is a late call, I think, for Norris. He won't be too pleased at the safety car and the Alpine being cleared, but still no notice yet of the safety car coming in. Norris, nice quick stop.
Lapped cars may overtake, lapped cars may overtake.
Just loses out to Fernando Alonso.
Alonso went the lap earlier, I think, for the soft tyre, and Norris has lost out, but because everyone else hasn't caught the train up yet, it was still a relatively cheap pit stop for Norris. Everyone, the race leaders are behind the safety car and the train. The field was so spread out that everyone else hadn't joined, so Norris could take that pit stop and not lose out too much. Still sixth.
Leclerc leads, Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Alonso, Norris, Vettel, Magnussen, Verstappen and Stroll the top 10. Schumacher, Latifi, Ricciardo, Tsunoda the top 14, and we've lost Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Russell, Zhou Guanyu and Alexander Albon from this race as Lance Stroll comes into the pit lane, and we do go another lap around with the safety car, still awaiting for that sign to come in. All drama so far.
Guys, I'm gonna be a lot quicker than Charles.
Queued some pit stops. Not so though for our leader Charles Leclerc, but those behind him, his teammate Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, all coming in and switching to the softer tyre.
Lapped cars may overtake, lapped cars may overtake.
And we're now coming in to the end of this safety car period shortly as the lap cars are being allowed to overtake, and we will soon get this back to you, Gigi. Well, lap cars being overtaken, so I can only assume then they'll do that, and then the safety car will be in, and we will get a final, 10 laps of this Grand Prix underway.
Yeah, one more lap once the lap cars go through. There were only a few of them. I think it was only Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Ricciardo and Tsunoda. 14 drivers left in this. Race of attrition in modern standards of Formula 1. Leclerc, hard tyres. Sainz, Hamilton.
So I know you're very good on position at the moment, so just maintain your maximum 10 car lengths to the car ahead.
He's had a really up and down race so far. He's been given more chances, I think, than most people. But Jenny Gow's down in the pits.
Yeah, this is now absolutely fascinating. Safety car still deployed, the lights flashing, the yellow flags waving. People still willing Lewis Hamilton on, but this is going to be thrilling. And Sergio Perez, well done to him for managing to do the tyre whispering this weekend. He came in at lap 5 to change over from the mediums to the hards and kept them going till that safety car came out. A very cheap stop for him to come in. So he's only been into the pits twice, whereas his teammate Verstappen has come in 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This is a very difficult race for Verstappen. But what's going to happen next?
Verstappen is in 9th, and Ocon retiring actually helped him out of position. The two cars ahead of Max Verstappen are Kevin Magnussen 8th in the Haas and Sebastian Vettel 7th in the Aston.
The instruction is to give 10 car lengths to charge and some breathing space. Within 10 car lengths.
But guys, I'm under pressure from Hamilton. Please don't ask these things. Please. Let's say stop inventing. I'm under pressure also.
Close yet, so Schumacher, with not a huge amount of pressure behind, can look to try and get something out of this Grand Prix. Oh, we're half a lap away from the restart. It's going to be tense.
Safety car ending officially at the end of this lap. Leclerc will take over as effectively the safety car. He will control the pace, but this is certainly a race that has benefited some of the usual occupants just outside the grid. The Haas is fighting in the points. We mentioned Latifi as well, holding on to into 11, which is what have been a fantastic race so far for the Williams driver, holding firm. And here's Carlos Sainz.
To give 10-car lengths to...
Trust me, there's more to lose like that.
Copy that.
Please, I'm under pressure from Hamilton. Please don't ask these things. Please, let's say stop inventing. Stop inventing. I'm under pressure also.
Wow. So Ferrari telling Sainz to back away from Leclerc, let Leclerc get the restart underway on his hard tyres. Sainz hasn't done that. He's right in behind Leclerc, says, guys, stop making stuff up. I want to fight him. And it looks like he's going to do that. Coming into the final corner.
Trust me, there's more to lose like that.
Copy that.
I think Leclerc's gone though, but Sainz is right there with him, as is Hamilton and Perez coming round the final corner now. Safety car in, we're back racing 10 laps to go then of the British Grand Prix as they snake their way down into turn 1. Sergio Perez in the Red Bull looks the closest at the moment to trying to find a way through on Lewis Hamilton for third. Can Perez come through and take the podium places away? Hamilton looking under pressure at the moment. Perez, the Mexican racer in the...
Should I do Michael while I'm not fighting right now?
Yes.
Going side by side down the Wellington Straight, and it's Carlos Sainz who is fighting to get in front, and he has done into the braking zone of Brooklands. Through Luffield they go, and it's Sainz in front of Leclerc and Red Bull's Perez in front of Lewis Hamilton.
What team orders? Sainz goes straight through. Perez with the restart. Hamilton has not made the most of this then. A poor start from him. And it's Perez into third. Leclerc on the hard tyre struggling. Perez right behind him as they flash into Copse Corner. Hamilton's still there. Sainz saying, trust me. And he's gone into the lead. It's the best chance for Ferrari to win this one, probably. He's scampering away from Leclerc, who's struggling on the hards.
I think Leclerc's going to really struggle to stay on the podium here. He's fallen right back from Carlos Sainz. Perez is looking the punchiest at the moment out of this top 5. And look who's joining them. The wily old fox Fernando Alonso right up behind Lewis Hamilton as Perez has a look down the inside into Stowe on Leclerc. Too far back on that occasion, but this is playing all of a sudden back into Carlos Sainz's hand. And you have to say, we thought this had gone away from him right at the start of the race. It wasn't working out for the first time pole sitter, but it is 150th Grand Prix. Currently, Carlos Sainz leading this race ahead of Leclerc and Perez in third, Hamilton fourth, Alonso in fifth.
Sainz scampering away, 1.2 seconds ahead now. What happened on the restart then? Hamilton was fighting with Perez. Hamilton went in a little bit deep into turn 4. Perez got the up and under and came through. And at the same time, there was a move for the lead, gloriously missed by the camera. And Sainz managed to get through on the Wellington Straight then. Leclerc must have got bad traction out of turn 4. And Sainz snuck through to take the lead. And he's now 1.2 seconds clear. Leclerc's got his mirrors full of a Red Bull. Who'd have thought that would be happening today?
Well, if you predicted this British Grand Prix, I think it was really luck at the draw right now. Perez side on with Lewis Hamilton in the battle for the final podium position.
DRS enabled. Let's get Leclerc.
Hamilton fighting hammer and tongs to get Perez from third. Hamilton, who was leading this race, first race he's led since last year, now currently in fourth. Perez is the man on the march right now.
Well, Leclerc's actually stabilised now on his hard tyres. Perez had a really horrible run out of Luffield. Was he trying to have a run at Leclerc and got it wrong? Or is Leclerc now looking okay on those hard tyres? Now they're up to 10th. Sainz is checking out at this one, 2 seconds clear. And with all the time Leclerc's in second place, Sainz is looking better for a first win. This DRS on the next lap, though, has not been enabled yet. But on the next lap it will be. And Leclerc is going to have his mirrors full of Perez. And Hamilton's still looking quick.
Lap 45 of 52 back underway, and once again more drama. Carlos Sainz on the safety car restart has been able to pip his teammate Leclerc and retake the lead, and he is checking out in front ahead of Leclerc.
Far behind Verstappen, 2.5. DRS enabled.
Is Verstappen back to normal pace?
He's basically matching our pace at the moment.
Here we go then, Hamilton closing up under braking, but you're right, Jolien, Sainz is just using this to his full advantage. He's able to check out, but look, they're really concertining up on the run out of Luffield. Alonso's lurking in the rear of this too. Leclerc second, Perez third, Hamilton fourth as they come into Copse.
Yeah, Leclerc just doesn't have the pace at the moment. He has to cover the middle of the road into Copse with Perez breathing down his neck. Perez there in the Red Bull third. Hamilton at the moment off the podium in fourth place, was just caught out at the restart, passed by Perez, and he's not able to make his way back through yet. He's on the back of the Red Bull, who's on the back of the Ferrari, who's dropping away from the other Ferrari at the front. Sainz looking very good.
DRS now open, Leclerc won't get it, Perez will, Hamilton will, Perez is going to try and go down the inside into Brooklands, Leclerc turns in, they go side on, can Leclerc stay on track, he's run a little bit wide, that'll give him the inside line, coming into Vale, Perez is going to try and stick round the outside, Perez runs off the track, Hamilton sneaks underneath both of them and takes them both into the final corner. Hamilton gets two positions in one corner as Perez and Leclerc do battle. Hamilton skates through up into second, and Perez isn't letting him get away with this one.
Perez down the inside at turn 3 in Village. Hamilton left the door open and Perez is back through, forces him wide on the exit, and now Leclerc's coming back. It's amazing racing between a Red Bull, a Ferrari and a Mercedes. Finally, in 2022, it's all for second place, and Hamilton, having got into second, left the door open for Perez, and he's back down to fourth. In fact, Alonso's on his inside.
Fernando Alonso being brought right into this fight. Perez currently heading the queue in second, but Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton right side on now with Leclerc. Perez up into second. Leclerc just chops off Lewis Hamilton, who has to back out of it. That's putting him into the clutches of the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. Now Hamilton goes defensive into Copse. Alonso has to hide back, but now Sainz leads. Perez second, Leclerc third, Hamilton fourth, Alonso fifth, Norris sixth.
Amazing racing between Perez, Leclerc and Hamilton, all on the edge of legality, to be honest, forcing each other a bit wide in Vale, in Club, in Village as well, and it's worked out well in the end for Perez. He's up into second, now it's Leclerc third, Hamilton fourth. Leclerc has DRS to defend though now, because he's still in behind Perez for the time being.
Well, it's just settled down, hasn't it? Race control, investigating Perez leaving the track and gaining an advantage. We're seeing a replay now coming into Vale. Leclerc on the inside, Perez being run out of room on the outside. They just both run wide, and what a sensational move from Lewis Hamilton, coming up the inside of both the Ferrari and the Red Bull in the final corner. The sound you're hearing is riding on board with the 7th.
The inside into Village, and he left the door open for Perez, who just snuck it down. He did then force Hamilton off the road on the outside though, and Perez, the incident's noted for Perez gaining a position off track with Leclerc. He then did also force Hamilton wide on the exit of Village, which is technically, it's more against the rules this year.
Adelantó Hamilton.
Drama every time you come back to us at the British Grand Prix. It's lap 47 of 52. Carlos Sainz still leads. We've just seen a sensational move. Lewis Hamilton getting two cars, Leclerc and Perez in the final corner, but then losing out. Perez and Leclerc back through again. It is a fascinating battle between second, third and fourth as Carlos Sainz, former Grand Prix driver Jolien Palmer, starts to edge away from this.
Hamilton's got a run on Leclerc. He's going to the outside at Stowe. You might hear a crowd cheer in a minute. Not quite, because Leclerc defends it on the inside. Sainz is getting away with the win. Perez is in second, and Hamilton is fighting for a podium.
Leclerc defends. He had this time with Perez last time around. Hamilton bails out of that one. You've seen what happens there. 5 laps to go. Coming around the final corner now. Across the line once more. Sainz leads. Perez second. Leclerc currently trying to hold on to third on the harder compound tyre, the slower tyre. He's got front wing damage as well. Defending from Lewis Hamilton, who's bringing Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris along for the ride too.
Leclerc's going to be in trouble this time, coming out of the loop. Slow speed left-hander. Now they accelerate. You can hear Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes on board. He's going to open the DRS and he's going to have a run at the Ferrari for third again.
Lewis Hamilton coming down to the braking zone, takes the outside line, a really wide line for Lewis Hamilton. The Ferrari runs deep though. Hamilton out wide. He's going to go round the long way. Can he do it and get past Leclerc? The crowd cheers. Hamilton currently just a car length ahead. Leclerc is trying to come back at him side by side coming into Copse. They'll both be familiar with how this turn rages out. Leclerc holds on around the outside. We're riding on board with it.
Hold on, he did hold on around the out.
He holds on through Magnussen Beckett. Leclerc back up into third ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Lap 48 of 52. Carlos Sainz leads, but this is the battle we're all following. It's Lewis Hamilton going through on Charles Leclerc coming into the right-hander of Stowe. Once again, he swoops round. Hamilton up into the podium places once more. Leclerc now having to look at his mirrors because Fernando Alonso wants a piece of this too.
It's getting worse and worse for Leclerc. Big, brave defence from him on that lap. I mean, hanging on around the outside of Copse Corner, side by side, the two of them was majestic racing. Hamilton has been fair or even more than fair in all of this racing, and I think it's costed them.
Let's use some overtake. We've nothing to lose.
Has the win in his grasp. His first ever Grand Prix victory is just a few laps away. He's 3.7 seconds up the road from Perez. Hamilton 2.5 seconds away from Perez. The top three now stabilised, and it's Leclerc having to hold off Fernando Alonso in fourth.
And Lando Norris is coming in for this battle as well. Two Brits left in this after George Russell sadly had to retire in the opening lap. What a race so far we're having here at the 56th running of the Silverstone British Grand Prix. We're seeing replays of that fantastic move. Lewis Hamilton with better drive coming out of left field, gets it through on Leclerc, but then riding on board is the sound you're hearing. Well, just a few laps to go of this sensational British Grand Prix so far. Sainz leads ahead of Perez and Hamilton. Leclerc in fourth. Max Verstappen, the reigning champion who was battling for the lead right at the start of this race, now finds himself trying to battle with Mick Schumacher in the Haas. Schumacher all over the back of Verstappen, currently occupying seventh. Schumacher in eighth. Mick Schumacher has not scored a point in Formula One so far. They do battle as the top three starts to settle down. Is Sainz leading ahead of Perez, Hamilton, Leclerc, Alonso the top five, Norris, Verstappen, then comes Schumacher, Vettel, Magnussen the top 10.
Schumacher's having a great drive in eighth, putting pressure on Max Verstappen. Their dads used to be teammates of Benetton in the 90s. Now they're finally doing battle from either end of the grid. It's been a horrible race for Verstappen, but he's actually in seventh, and with Leclerc falling away, there might not be that much to separate the two. Ferrari have made a terrible strategy again. It's cost Leclerc here.
Here comes Mick Schumacher on the back.
The snap you had in the 13 was due to a gust.
Copy.
In that car, changing tyres, a potential puncture to blame to start with, but just a car problem. Verstappen limping home in seventh at the moment. Mick Schumacher in the Haas, though, keeping with the reigning champion. And Vettel and Magnussen are a few seconds off this battle, so if they continue to fight, that might well bring a tasty end to seventh place here. But really, battles everywhere you look in this British Grand Prix. It has just stabilised and settled out at front at the moment. Lap 50 of 52. DRS wide open coming onto the hanger straight for Mick Schumacher. Does he try and dive down the inside into Stowe? No, follows him through line of stern for now. Verstappen continuing on down into the braking zone of Vale. Into the left-hander. Sainz still leads though, lap 51. It's a 3.3 second gap, and he sets the fastest lap. What a turnaround for Carlos Sainz race.
Well, it's the strategy. It's the strategy that's worked for Sainz today, and it's gone against Leclerc in a horrible way for Ferrari, who were 1-2 in the Grand Prix when the safety car came out. Esteban Ocon's Alpine came to a halt. They were 1-2. They pitted Sainz, they didn't pit Leclerc. It's left Leclerc on hard tyres, scrabbling around for grip. He's in fact just holding on from Fernando Alonso now, fourth, with Alonso in fifth. It's going to be a dubious call. I think Leclerc's going to have many questions for the Ferrari team, but it's worked nicely for Sainz, who is on the penultimate lap, looking to win his first ever Grand Prix.
Jenny Gow's down in the pit lane.
Yeah, if it were to end like this, then Verstappen would be on 179 points. If he could just hold on from Mick Schumacher at the moment. Leclerc, 151 points. So the gap between the top two would come down to 28 points. Leclerc trying to chase down Verstappen in their championship battle.
Sound you're hearing on board with the Haas driver, Mick Schumacher, who I don't think we've seen anything of in this race until recently because of just how...
not bad, he's going faster.
And Albon, after a huge incident into turn 1, Show and Albon both suffering and being taken away. Medical checks, they have been cleared for that and being seen to, so that's good news for those two. And that has left us with a restarted British Grand Prix, and well, it's been action ever since that 53-minute red flag period was up. We start the final lap of this race here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. Sainz with a 4-second gap now to Sergio Perez, and Lewis Hamilton on the podium in third with just a few corners left to run.
Hamilton's had it all in this Grand Prix, hasn't he? A good start initially, then put back, then he's had great pace and fighting with the Ferraris on merit for a race win. The safety car came, dropped him back again, or he dropped himself back behind Sergio Perez, and now he's back into third, beating a Red Bull.
Mick Schumacher going down the outside into the end of the Wellington straight with Max Verstappen over 7th and 8th. Verstappen cuts back across him, forces the German off track. He has to slide back on Schumacher, giving it some in these final stages, trying to claw a few extra points, but Schumacher currently on course to score his first ever Formula 1 points if he can hold on to that 8th or even go one better for 7th.
Important point still this for Verstappen, championship leader, down in 7th place. It's been a horrible race for him with damage, but he's still going to get some points out of it.
That 52 of 52. Carlos Sainz in his 150th Grand Prix took his first ever pole position, started on pole, and he wins his first ever race in Formula 1 at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. The Scarlet Red Ferrari crosses the line in front of Red Bull's Sergio Perez, and it's a home podium for Lewis Hamilton in third, who takes the fastest lap points as well. Mick Schumacher is going to...
Vamos. Good job. We did it. Yes. We did it. Yes. Vamos. Bravo, Carlos.